Hey guys, welcome to Denny's. Today we're going to jump into Keelan and the first Descendant. More specifically, we are going to be looking at a build I'll be using for Keelan right now as it stands. We'll go into detail on the gameplay loop, why I think he's actually extremely strong compared to a lot of people saying that he is not, and why I think you should build him. But don't want to spend too long on the intro. Definitely like the video if it helped you out. Comment any feedback you got from me. Subscribe if you feel that I have earned it today. And then follow me over on Twitch, guys. I'm live over there on Twitch daily now, so definitely leave a follow over there. I would love to see you guys there. I'm also streaming on YouTube live, so definitely don't feel afraid to stop in and say hello when I'm streaming on YouTube as well. But let's jump into the video. All right, so the first thing we are going to go over on Keelan is going to be the build itself. So I'm going to go into the Descendant modules and kind of explain what we're doing. So first off, I want to start with the fact that we are not using any Transcendent modules. Now, I know you guys probably have seen a lot of maybe some build videos, and yeah, to be honest, Keelan's Transcendent modules are not very good, in my opinion, and in anybody's opinion, it seems. They definitely need a little bit of a rework or a buff. There's a lot of things that could be better. His dash one, where his onslaught, mobile strike, there's just not enough damage in it. And then as far as his other Transcendent mod, focus on prey, again, not enough damage. His tremor gets like a 15% damage increase overall, and then with mobile strike, you lose so much. So we're not going to worry about any Transcendent modules. We're going to stick with his kit. We're going to go over the passive and all the skills after. I just want to show the build first because I know a lot of people came for the build and probably only the build, but definitely do not screenshot this and leave because I am going to go over some important playstyle things that you need for Keelan. And in my opinion, this is the most important time to stay because you're not just going to run in there and wreck with Keelan. You're going to need to go into some detail and kind of know what you're going to need to do. But let's jump in. So focus on toxic, focus on singular. We need as much cooldown as we can on Keelan, so that's why we're running our damage mods with the focus on for cooldown. We've got nimble fingers and MP conversion for that reason as well. Full cooldown. Maximize range, skill expansion as well. So this is actually pretty important with Keelan, guys. With his second ability, Onslaught, maximizing our range is absolutely necessary because we want to pierce as many people as we can to get the cooldown down, but I will go into that again and when I go into the skill section. And then we've got HP amplification, increased HP. We are like extremely close at all times with Keelan. We are basically like a melee Descendant nearly. So we are extremely close. So you want to be as tanky as you possibly can. And I think HP amp and increased HP are the way to do it. And then we've got our toxic amplification and our singular amplification. Obviously, the only other way is that we gain damage. And he is not a crit Descendant, so we will not be building crit on him unless you're planning on partying up with a Luna. But yeah, he's not a crit Descendant, so definitely would not do crit. That is going to be the build section of the video. I wanted to speed it through a little bit quicker this time. Let me know if in the comments if that was a good idea or a bad idea. I definitely don't want to spend too much time on them, but the screenshot was there. We will go into the weapon, reactor, and components now. So we'll jump into that. All right, so for the weapon, it really doesn't matter what you guys use, to be honest. Whatever highest damage weapon you want to use. Currently, I've got a reactor that has a submachine gun mounted, so I am using Python. Kind of wanted to check out the new skin as well with Python. It looks pretty clean. So I'm using Python for my main holstered weapon, and it does decent damage whenever I'm not on Keelan doing damage with my abilities. And then I'm using Volsha for when I'm running Void Vessel with him. And then I do use Afterglow Sword for any kind of burst that I need. However, you can run the new shotguns, Executor and Smithereens, the newly buffed shotguns, excuse me, if you would like to do some burst damage up close with Keelan, which I think is actually a good idea. I think the swords, the Afterglow Sword and snipers in general probably aren't the best pick for Keelan. Because he's such an up-close Descendant, but I'm just using Afterglow Sword, honestly rarely use it. So that is the weapons I'm using. As far as the Python build on screen, you should probably have seen it when I was going over that, and it's probably still on screen because that's the main one we use. I'll pop up the Volsha build now so you guys can take a look at what I'm using, but other than that, that's the weapons. We'll jump into the reactors next really quickly. And the reactors are pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You want a toxic singularity reactor, you want toxic skill power boost ratio or singular skill power boost ratio mixed with skill cooldown. Now, singular is better here. However, you can get either one and you can get that skill cooldown. That's the main thing we want. We want as much cooldown as we can with Keelan. It is absolutely the most important stat on Keelan, in my opinion, until they give him his little buff, which is supposed to reduce the cooldowns, I imagine, as far as what they're going to do for him. So that is the reactor for mobbing. As far as bossing, you can just get singular boost and Colossus damage. However, he's not really a bosser, to be honest, until they give him his buff in probably, I'm guessing it's going to be January, maybe sooner, but he's not really going to be a bosser until then. But that is the one I would go for, singular boost and Colossus damage for the bossing. All right, and then let's jump into the components. So this is actually going to be interesting here. A lot of people are going to tell you to use Slayer, this is where I'm going to disagree. So I am using the 2-piece Hunter set. I'm using specifically the Hunter Sensor and the Hunter Processor. Now, the reason that I'm using the Hunter Sensor and the Hunter Processor is because the Hunter Sensor gives you defense and the Hunter Processor gives you max HP as the main stat. So the other 2 Hunter pieces give you max shield, which in my opinion, max shield is completely useless in this game unless you're running against Deathstalker with a Freyna build or Ajax, etc., people that run shield. And Keelan just doesn't work with shield very well. So that is why I'm running those 2. I'm running Distorted Resolve for the other 2 pieces for my Aux Power and my Memory. There is no reason for that. I do get a nice submachine gun ATK percentage. However, I would like to use the Venom Essence one for an additional Toxic skill power buff. It's just that I haven't really had a good roll of that drop yet. I'm only using these because they have max HP rolls, as well as my Memory has a max defense roll on it as well. As far as the rolls, it really doesn't matter what you have because Keelan does not use MP recovery. You just want to make sure you have max HP and defense on your auxiliary power and memory respectively. Obviously, those are the 2 pieces that can roll with max HP and defense respectively again. So Aux Power for max HP and memory for defense, but those are what I'm running. And I want to explain why I think that the Hunter Sensor and the cooldown from that is better than running Slayer on Keelan as it stands right now. And that is because he's not a bosser. We're not trying to get as much damage as we can out of him with the Slayer set. The Slayer set is going to give him a lot of damage. However, I don't think that you're going to go in and want to boss with Keelan right now. I think what you're going to want to do is jump in and basically spam your dash and do as much damage as you can. So this is going to get our dash down to an 8.8 second cooldown. And I only have a blue rolled reactor with a skill cooldown reduction of 5.7%. So that is 8.8 seconds. That could be down to around 8 seconds flat whenever I get a gold rolled reactor. And basically the reason that I believe that Hunter is so good and why cooldown is so good is because that makes it so that all we need to do is pierce 1 target and we will have a 3-second cooldown on our onslaught. I repeat, you only have to pierce 1 target and you'll have a 3-second cooldown on your onslaught ability. That's your second ability. You'll be able to dash. If you dash through 2 targets, you're going to get a reset, and you're going to get a second added to or reduced from the cooldown of the 3rd reset of his dash. That is why I believe cooldown is so strong, because when you don't have the Hunter set, it turns into an 11 to 12 second cooldown. And with that 11 to 12 second cooldown means you have to pierce more than 2 targets to get the instant reset. I know that you are piercing a lot of targets a lot of the time, but having to pierce less makes it actually substantially better, especially when you're only piercing 1 target. You get to spam it way more. It makes a huge difference in my opinion, so definitely do not sleep on that. And obviously if you want to use Slayer, be my guest, use Slayer, use a set that we've been using forever. I think that's totally fine. You do more damage, whatever. However, I think that this is a nice addition with the 4% skill cooldown, and I won't spend too much longer. We'll jump into the skills of Keelan now and kind of go over the gameplay loop. Okay, so I want to start with Keelan's passive. So for Keelan's passive, it's called Erosion. Now, basically what it is, it's a stacking buff that he gets. It gives you right around 28% skill power modifier per stack, 12.5 movement speed per stack, and you can get up to 4 of these stacks. That's agility. Now, in order to get 1 stack, you need to cast an ability 5 times. So what that means is, any combination of any abilities, you need to cast an ability 5 times. So we need to cast 20 abilities in order to get this thing maxed out. And it only lasts for 10 seconds of us being out of combat. So we need to make sure that we are pressing an ability once every 10 seconds, or at least in combat once every 10 seconds. When you're not in combat, you need to make sure that you're pressing your dash and saving stacks of dash for whenever you're not going to be in combat, because that resets the skill application account of Erosion. That's as basic as I can explain it. It gives you a stack. You need to cast it 5 times to get 1. It stacks up to 4 times, and you get a giant movement speed increase and a giant skill power modifier increase. It is a 100% skill power modifier and a right around like a 50% movement speed increase, which is amazing. 50% movement is wild. He's the fastest Descendant in the game. He's faster than Bunny, especially with the dashes. He's by far the fastest Descendant in the game, in my opinion. Obviously, when it comes to movement speed, not when it comes to farming. Freyna is still the king or queen, there. However, we're going to go into the next ability. So we're going to talk about Void Corrosion. Void Corrosion is his first ability. It has a 12-second cooldown normally, but with this build, it is down to 1.9 seconds. Now, the beautiful thing about cooldown is this being at a 1-second cooldown means that we are spamming this to get our stacks of Erosion, our passive up much quicker. I am basically always pressing this button while I'm dashing through. I wish that there was a way to autocast it, but I don't think there is right now. I basically always press this. There's times that I don't press this to make sure that I can keep my onslaught pierce So if you want to press Onslaught to get a Pierce, make sure you don't press this because you might kill the target that you're trying to pierce to get your Onslaught stack reset. But other than that, I'm always pressing this. It will apply a poison dot called Acidic Erosion. This dot is our main, it goes hand in hand with our ult. It's our main kind of damage with our ult. It's our big burst damage. However, it's not that much right now. It does a decent amount of damage and it's utilized with our ult. I'll talk about that when we go into the ult. Now let's talk about Onslaught. So the main thing that we really need to know about Onslaught is it normally has a 55-second cooldown. It's down to 8 seconds. And as long as you pierce 1 to 2 targets, you're going to have a really, really fun time because you're always going to be resetting the cooldown of your Onslaught. What I mean by pierce, you need to make sure that you dash through a target. It's not that long of a dash, so you need to make sure that you actually pierce the target. You do build range with this build. The reason that we build range is so we can pierce more targets in a wider area. That's going to get our cooldown back up much quicker, and it's going to make it so we are resetting our dash much more commonly. As you can see, stat cooldown reduction per pierce is 5 seconds. The max reduction count is 3 times. So what this means is the most you can get reduced on your ability is 15 seconds, guys. You can pierce up to 3 targets and get 15 seconds reduced. So if you really wanted to, you don't have to run cooldown if you always want to try to pierce 3 targets. However, I don't think that's ideal. I think that if you pierce 1 target and you have a 2-second cooldown left, it's fantastic. It feels much better than having to always pierce 3 targets. It means you can use this ability way more in spots that there's not as dense of enemies, and you'll always have your stacks going and resetting. And then the only other really important thing to know is it also applies a dot, Acidic Erosion, and that dot is the same as the first one. It's every single one of his abilities applies it, even his third ability, which we'll jump into now. So his third ability is called Septic Gust. More or less, it's an AoE in a circle around you. It's got a radius. The radius is 20 meters. With our build, it's normally 7. Now, this costs you 1/4 of your bar, of your skill bar, your resource on Keelan. Keelan gets up to 1,000 of this special resource. He does not use MP. You'll use 1/4 of your bar when you use this, so you want to use it carefully. You don't want to use this as your main source of damage. Also, it has a pretty long cooldown. The only reason you ever use this is if you're out of stacks of Onslaught and you need to do a little bit extra damage and you want to apply some more of the Acidic Erosion, and you can get a bomb to go off. If they already have stacks of Acidic Erosion, they will do what's called a blood rot or septicemia. They named it 2 different things in the explanation here, but they're the same thing. Basically, if it already has a stack of Acidic Erosion when you hit this ability, you wait a second, it'll do another explosion automatically for a little bit of damage. Now, I rarely use this because I want to talk about why. We're going to jump into the 4th ability. So Tremor, basically, this utilizes all of our stacks of Acidic Erosion that we have put on the enemy, right? So what this is going to do is it's going to rip all those stacks off the enemy, and it's going to do damage based on how many stacks was on the enemy. So it's obviously we have a poison max stack of 5 with Acidic Erosion, so you can get up to right around like 10,000 skill power percentage with this if you have 5 stacks, and it's on a 12-second cooldown if you have all the cooldown that I'm talking about in this build. However, it takes half of your resource bar. It takes 500 resource bar, and the range is not buffed with increased range, which is fantastic because we don't want it to be, because the main reason we are using this ability is not actually to do damage. It is to reset the cooldown on our Onslaught. If no enemies are within range of this ability, you are going to get 3 stacks of Onslaught and be able to cast Onslaught that much more often and get your restacks. And you can do this every 12 seconds. As long as you have casted Onslaught 5 times in the past 12 seconds, you're going to be able to press this button. Every time you cast Onslaught, you gain enough resource if you cast it 5 times to basically it's 100 of your resource per cast. So you will be able to cast Tremor to regain 3 stacks as long as you've casted Onslaught 5 times in the past 12 seconds, which is amazing. This basically means that if you're playing right, you will always have a stack of Onslaught, and Onslaught does a boatload of damage, and that is basically how we're speedrunning around the map, doing all the damage. I tried to explain that as basic as I could. Let me know. I definitely would appreciate feedback as far as explaining goes. But I did try to explain that as concisely and quickly as I could for Keelan, because a lot of people don't really understand. But more or less, use your abilities, reset Onslaught by piercing targets by running through them, and then use Tremor to reset the stacks of Onslaught to continue doing that. It's pretty basic, but it can be kind of confusing. If you want to do big damage, you can also use Tremor, but I never do because Onslaught does too much damage, in my opinion. 3 stacks of Onslaught do far more damage than 1 5-stack use of Tremor when you have 5 stacks of Acidic Erosion. So that is Keelan, that is his abilities, that is the gameplay loop. And that is pretty much it. I would love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Definitely tell me what you think of Keelan. Are you enjoying him? Have you earned him yet? Are you crafting him? Do you not enjoy him? I personally am having a lot of fun with him. He's my new, and I don't say this lightly, guys, he's my new favorite Descendant for sure. Lepic was my favorite Descendant prior. Now Keelan is my favorite. He is just so fun to play. And with his buff, he is probably going to be just absolutely broken. And once they buff him, I know that the skybox was an issue and stuff like that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys have a great day, night, wherever you're at. Do not forget to follow me over on Twitch. We're live daily. I would love to see you guys there. Also live on YouTube daily, so definitely stop by, check it out. Check out the VODs if you missed it. I've got all of my YouTube VODs on the channel. And yeah, join the Discord if you guys want in the description below. Follow me on Twitter or X down below. I'm out of here, guys. I hope you have a great one. Peace out. Goodbye.